Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Bradley of Aqua Rose Life Enterprises. For those of you who don't know me, I am a spiritual support coach where I help affirm and support people who have gone through church hurt experiences in their religious communities and religious belief systems and help them raise their spiritual esteem with the priority of focusing on their personal relationship with God and not continuing to conflate God and church, which causes a lot of turmoil and disappointment and frustration with people in unfortunate, toxic church communities. So that's what I do. I also am the author of Coming Out of the Cave Lessons from an Ex Church Girl that you can get on Amazon. And I have a companion spiritual journal book that goes along with that book that also can be purchased on Amazon. Um, I wanted to come on here today as my first live, so bear with me, but this has been on me for a while about how labels, the people that are closest to us in our lives, are cause us to be in emotional chokeholds. Unfortunately, um, we are encouraged to let people who are family members, and that's what I mean by labels: mother, father, sister, brother, grandmother, granddaddy, aunt, uncle, um, that because they're family members, if we're mistreated, if there's toxicity, if there's trauma and abuse, neglect, anything that breaks the spirit and hurts the heart and causes our lived experiences and our trust and connection as we get older in other people to be altered based on those relationships and experiences, those are the people that I'm talking about. And when they do it because of the labels that they are, there is justifications, there's excuses, there's gaslighting. And especially if you come from a religious background, and I should also say spouses, um, you are to give grace and you are to forgive. And the honoring of the mother and thy father, even though the very next verse says that fathers should not agitate their children, but for whatever reason, that's not preached in church. But no matter what mommy and or daddy do, because they're mother and father, they get a pass. And everybody around you allows that pass to happen. And you're sitting there being made to feel like you're crazy or you're wrong and you don't have the right to express your hurt and your frustration and your confusion over your treatment. And I'm here because I just want to affirm you and say that it is okay to speak your truth. It is okay to fall back and put distance from those family members. No one, anyone that you wouldn't allow to mistreat you if they don't have a label, if the same person did the same thing that your parents or family member is doing to you and you would not deal with it, and you probably even get support from other people to no longer deal with that person or to set up boundaries, then you should not accept that same behavior and treatment from the people in your life just because they're family, just because it's your spouse or your child or whomever that has the quote unquote labels in your life. One thing that I have realized is that God does give you somewhere along the way background into that particular family member's life where you get the root cause of the ill behavior. And for me, I thought that, you know, that's one way to kind of hang in there and still hold out hope because you have that understanding of why they're showing up for you that way, why they're behaving that way, why they're treating you that way. But it's only revealed to you so that you can forgive, so that you're not holding bitterness and toxicity in your body from the experience, because now you have understanding. So now you can release that, you can have compassion, but understand that compassion plus boundaries equals peace, self preservation, and healing. So you have compassion because it's like, okay, They're acting like this and they're behaving like this because of their past experiences, their unhealed child wounds. But the thing is, they're making the choice not to be healed. So you're being projected upon. But also understand that as personal as it feels, it's not personal, because whoever was their child, spouse, grandchild, niece, nephew, whomever would get the same treatment, because it's about them. It's not about you. And I don't want you to feel that it's you, even though people are trying to, you don't make it easy, or you're, not helpful enough, or you're not understanding enough, or it's always, you're not enough. No, it's not about you. It's about them. And I do want to talk a little bit about the gaslighting that happens when you share, or you feel like you can share with someone that seems trustworthy, about your experience with said family member. Just because somebody else has a positive experience, and I want to talk to those people that do it. Just because, let me rephrase, just because you have a positive relationship with someone doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't have a different experience. And I won't even say that you're getting a false person or the representative. That's an aspect of them. And fortunately for you, you have that positive experience. But we're all complex, layered individuals. So unfortunately, there is a shadow, an internal aspect of them that's triggered by the people that's closest to them, that on Sunday morning or at the job or at, you know, the community event or committee or whatever you might be on, where you've encountered this person and they're just as nice as pie, and they're sweet and they're kind. Well, their child or their spouse or whomever may have a different experience. And that's also true. I think we need to take into account that two things can be true at the same time. So don't gaslight someone when they come to you. And a lot of times when you're the victim, you don't tell everybody, because as soon as you say anything, everybody's going to be looking at you crazy. But if they've come to you, don't that's not true. They're so nice. Your husband, your mother, your father, whomever, they're so great. Well, I'm telling you, I'm having, and I have had, a different experience. And especially when you've got years in and you have Johnny come lately people that come in, oh, they're so great. Yeah, they are and they can be. But my experience is my experience. And I want you all to be empowered to step away and fall back if need be, and be okay, and know that it's okay, because you matter and you're important. You're not here just to uphold the family or uphold other people and lift them up. You need to be lifted up. And if you're in these relationships that are draining your energy and continually breaking your heart, you have to be good and you have to be well and you have to be whole, and your cup needs to be full. So if that energy is being drained, act accordingly. Like I said, have compassion so that you don't fall into bitterness, and that your future relationships and trusting and connecting with people is not robbed from you. And you can do a soft boundary. Sometimes, people can only give you moments because of their unhealed, unaddressed stuff. So they're good, and you have moments when things are cool. The birthday party, everybody got along. Thanksgiving, everything was cool. Christmas, everything was nice. Once a month, Sunday dinner, cool. That's a soft boundary. And as long as you can just write off those moments, because I'm sure by this point and over the years, have shown you that they cannot be consistent. So, and I got this from my good friend and therapist, Latricia Penny. Enjoy the moments and keep it moving. And then sometimes it has to be at hard boundary, and you love that person from afar, pray for that person. For me, whenever I've been hurt by a family member or a friend, I don't want anything bad to happen. And that's doesn't do you well anyway, for you to be vengeful and want the downfall of someone, even though they hurt you. Now, feel what you feel the anger, feel the upset, go through the process of moving through those emotions. I'm not saying to bypass, suppress, or be avoidant. Feel what you feel, because you're facing the reality of acceptance of who that person is and what they can offer you or not offer you in terms of a connection. But like I said, sometimes you have to enjoy the moments, and sometimes, like I said, you have to love that person from afar. And that's what I was saying. I don't want anything bad to happen, but I do hope for change. But understand, people make the choice and the decision to change. You can't make them, and you can't pray that they will. People have free will to make choices. And I do want to address this real quick, because a lot of my sisters in the church who are in um, unhealthy, toxic, excuse the ringing phone, toxic, abusive marriages are usually counseled by the pastor, maybe mothers of the church, fellow congregants in the community. Pray for your husband. And I'm sure, and men, I don't want to not include you, because I'm sure that there are men that, definitely are in situations themselves, and usually are given the same type of advice. But I've grown up seeing and hearing about women who clearly are being disrespected, cheated on, abused, um, and going through and having their life and energy drained from them, and holding on to church and church service and church community just to be able to keep their head above water from their pain. And like I said, the advice is usually pray for them, pray for them. God will work it out. Give it over to God. And you have women that stay in marriages for years, waiting and praying and coming to the altar Sunday after Sunday in tears, with broken hearts, and functioning, just functioning through life, waiting for their husbands to change, or men waiting for their wives to change. Understand that what God does, not that God doesn't hear your prayers, but God will conspire on your behalf, and he'll bring that person's best friend to have that conversation. He'll have a podcast pop up. There'll be an earth angel that they don't know that'll be at the restaurant or the gas station that'll start speaking to him. God will bring opportunities, people, social media, music, talk show, whatever, to speak to that person, to have them really face themselves and really acknowledge their behavior, and with very sharp clarity understand what they need to change, and the error of their ways, so to speak. But that person still has a choice. Like, all that can happen, and that person can still be like, nah. So please don't stay, I don't care what the label, do not stay in relationship, in connection, let people have access to you just because they have labels. It will not, it hurts the soul. Like I say, it's draining. And I said earlier, you matter. We're all here by divine right. We all have a purpose. We are all cups of God here on the earth. I heard my sister Queen Poe, I think she mentioned that in one of her videos, and I love that. We're all cups of God here on the earth, and we're all connected. And so, for you to stay in situations where, like I said, you're drained of your energy, where you're broken, where you're hurt, you can't fully enjoy the life, the journey, the adventure, and the purpose that has been given to you here on this side of heaven when people have access that shouldn't. We've made being selfish such a negative thing, and it's actually necessary. It's necessary to put yourself first. It is necessary to make sure that you're good. It is necessary to make sure that you surround yourself with people that truly honor and love and care about you genuinely from their heart. And another thing that I want to say, if the labels in your life don't show up for you the way that they're supposed to, God does bless you with other people who will show up for you in the right way. A lot of us, myself included, you get caught up in staying in the hurt and staying in the hope and trying every which way to find the sweet spot with the people that have the label that you don't. I don't want to say that you don't value, because we do. We do value, we do love the play aunties that come in our lives, the godmothers that we might have, the teacher, the colleague at work, that ends up being like a sibling, you know, sister or brother from another mother. God brings those other people in our lives, but we don't put the focus enough on, I have this tribe over here. I do have people that love, affirm, understand, appreciate, reciprocate, um, and receive and embrace who I am as I do them. Because we can get stuck in the fact of, well, why won't the labels do this? Or what can I possibly do to get the labels to do this? Or maybe if they see that God mommy loves and appreciates me, or my colleague, my boss speaks well of me, maybe they will. There's a term, radical acceptance, and even better than that, Maya Angelou is my favorite author and poet, and to me this should be a scripture and something that we all should abide by. And the statement is, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And I think, we focus more in applying that to people out in the world, strangers that we don't know, people that we come across at work or at school, or new people that we open ourselves up to date. And it does apply to all of those situations, circumstances, and all the people that you don't know that's out in the world that you come across. Absolutely. But it also applies to the labels. Like I said, we've got to stop giving labels a pass for things we would never tolerate from a stranger, from somebody at work, from somebody at school, from a relationship. They don't get to mistreat you just because they're a label. And yes, like I said, it's good to forgive for you, so you're not holding on to stuff. But sometimes, like I said, the falling back, putting up the boundary, not letting people have access is how we can eventually get to forgiveness. And don't rush that. Don't rush that. Don't make anybody guilt you into immediate forgiveness, because it's not even real anyway. Even if you say, well, I forgive, you haven't that's a process. That's a process that takes time. And if you're still hurting and if it's still raw, no, you haven't. You may set the intention, and that's cool, and that's a great first step, but give yourself the time. And like I said, and understand it may take some separation, it may take a hermit season, and it's okay. And if you're the only person that is having that experience and everybody around you is making you feel like the problem, please don't accept that. And if you have to distance yourself from everybody else that is cheerleading for the person that is putting you through it, like I said, God is going to give you a tribe. God might give you a person, a best friend, but there'll be somebody that will ride for you in that season where you may have to step away just for you to be all right, for you to refill that cup, for you to recalibrate, for you to heal. Like I said, you matter. You, each and every one of us here matters. And to fully tap into all of who we are in spirit, or even connect with the spirit aspect of ourselves, we have to heal. We never are separated from God, but sometimes we can be separated from the spirit within because we're so hurt. So I want you to be empowered to not let labels keep you in that emotional chokehold. Please don't. Please don't. And you never know. You making the moves that you move will could cause. Now, don't hang your hat on this, but it could cause the person to then take a look at themselves, because after a while, people think, "Oh, they'll never. I can do whatever. They'll always be around. It'll be all right." Till you let them know it's not. Because that's the unfortunate thing when everybody allows the bad behavior to happen. They're robbing that person of their opportunity to evolve and do better. But that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your wellness, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and being that whole joyful spirit that has peace. That's what I would want for all of you. Before I go, another thing that we do, just making this more of a general thing, is we dehumanize one another with labels. And I realized that in my own marriage. And it was a great healing conversation that my husband and I had. And it's not just with spouses, we do it with our children, we do it with each other in society. You know, he's Black, she's gay, they're non binary, they're trans, they're Asian, Latina, whatever. We're all human beings. Like I said, nobody is one dimensional. We're all complex. We have different aspects to ourselves, and we all matter. And we're more than just a label. But when we label one another, we so minimize who one another is because we just attach that person to that label and then whatever we think about that label. And a lot of times we lean on stereotypes. But back to me and my husband having a conversation. Um, we're Tim and Tiff. We are two unique whole human beings that came together. And I know that we're not the only ones that have done this. That's why I want to speak on it. But when we got married, and a lot of us when we get married, we literally minimize and water that other person down to that label. You're my husband. You're my wife. And then whatever expectations that label carries for us, and it's different for everybody else. And I think that's a lot of times when the disappointment and the upset and the frustration in marriages come. Because if all you are now to me is just my spouse, just my husband, and just the expectations that I have, now that you're that label, whenever you don't meet those expectations, we have a problem. But when we were Tiff and Tim, there was more just acceptance of who we are, who we, well, who we are, but who the other person was as individuals, not just labels. And when we stepped back and became Tiff and Tim and not just husband, wife, labels and expectations, things definitely flow so much better. So be careful, even with your children. Stop putting so much ownership about that. You were the gateway for them to come into this world. They are individual, unique human beings, spirits really that God has sent to this world, and they're going through their own maturation process. We are here to guide and protect and teach and nurture and cover and feed and all of those things till they get to the age of maturity where they can fulfill their God-given purpose and go on their journey. So stop, some of us, we chastise and spank and punish our children for having human reactions. The same ones that we have, but because it's a child, it's a problem. It's a problem if the baby gets upset, he wanted a toy, he can't have it, he's upset, now he's in trouble. How do you feel when you can't get something that you want? You get upset and you have emotions. Now, yeah, we can teach the child how to kind of deal with their emotions and, if they get out of hand, explain what is acceptable and not acceptable. But a lot of us get angry and upset with a child having a human reaction and emotion the same way that they do. But when, like I said, when our children do, it's a problem because it's a label. You're a child. No, it's whoever. It's Larry, it's John, it's Jane, it's Tiff, it's Keisha, it's whoever. They're human beings. So don't put other people in emotional chokeholds with labels either. It's unfair. And it's very limiting. And it's really minimizing who other people are, who we all are. But again, with those family labels, the spouses, whomever that are close, that are supposed to show up in a way that's loving and kind and caring and nurturing and generous and respectful and supportive. If they're not, and all you're getting is pain, please put yourself first. Put yourself first and prioritize your healing. Okay, I just wanted to share that. I hope that that helps, and I hope that it encourages you and it empowers you to make decisions that is in your best interest. Pray for wholeness, love, peace, joy, and abundance for each of you. Right.